Ever notice that there are times you can handle stress like a champion, but at other times, the smallest of things can make you completely shut down or completely explode with rage almost. That's not a character flaw, actually. That's your nervous system falling outside what psychologists call a window of tolerance, your window of tolerance. And understanding this concept will actually change how you think about your emotional reactions forever. Welcome back to Huddle Psychology, where we get uncomfortably real about all the stuff going on in your head. I'm Rahul Nair, and here we are going to decode the psychology behind why we do the weird things we actually do. Okay, let's get back to the topic and let's lay things out. Window of tolerance. Your nervous system has actually got a sweet spot. A sweet spot, a zone where you can actually handle stress, think clearly, and respond to challenges without falling apart or without losing control. But most people don't know that this zone actually exists, and that's a problem. So let's learn a little bit more about it. And because people don't know that this zone actually exists, they don't even know whether they need to stay in it. So it's an important topic to take, to listen to understand. So let's talk more about it. So instead of staying in the zone, we actually swing between two extremes. The extremes are hyperactivation, where we are anxious, angry, or we are overwhelmed by whatever is happening around us. Or there is hypoactivation, which is basically shutting down entirely, becoming numb, becoming disconnected, becoming depressed with respect to things that are happening around us. We think these extreme states are just how we are. We think that this is how we are under pressure, isn't it? But there are actually signals. They are signals that our nervous system has been pushed beyond its capacity to cope with what's happening around you, around us. Understanding your window of tolerance and learning how to perhaps expand it is one of the most practical things you can do. It's one of the most practical things you can do for your mental health. It explains why you react differently to the same situation depending on your current state. Depending on your current state, and gives you, well, the tools to stay regulated even when life kind of gets, let's say, intense or out of control. So what's the core concept we are talking about? The window of tolerance, actually, the concept of window of tolerance comes from trauma therapy, specifically, actually, from the work of Dan Siegel's work on interpersonal neurobiology. We don't need to get into the nuts and bolts of that. But think of it as basically your nervous system's optimal functioning zone. That's what the window of tolerance is. Inside your window of tolerance, you can think clearly, feel your emotions without being overwhelmed by them. You can communicate effectively and respond to stress in ways that actually solve your problems. You're present, basically. You're flexible and you're resilient. That is what happens when you're inside your window of tolerance. Above your window of tolerance, what happens? Well, your sympathetic nervous system is basically on overdrive at that point. You might feel anxious, angry, panicked, hypervigilant. Your heart starts racing, your thoughts are spiraling out of control. You might lash out at people around you. You become extremely reactive. This is basically your fight or flight response stuck in the on position all the time. That's what happens when you're above your window of tolerance. So your sympathetic nervous system goes on overdrive, gets stuck there, and everything starts spiraling out of control, and you become super reactive. Below your window of tolerance, you go into hypoactivation. Previously, it was hyperactivation. This is hypoactivation. And here, your parasympathetic nervous system has shut down, basically. You will start feeling numb, disconnected, foggy, depressed, all of these things, depending on what is happening around you. You can't think clearly. You might dissociate from reality, and you have trouble accessing your emotions, or you have trouble accessing your energy. This is your freeze or collapse response. That's what happens when you are below your window of tolerance. So now, here's what's really important and crucial. Everyone's window is different. Mine is different from yours, and yours is different from your parents' or your siblings or your friends'. So everyone's window is different, and your window can change based on, let's say, stress levels. The stress levels, your sleep, your health, your life circumstances, and past experiences. Depending on all these factors, your window of tolerance can be different from another person's. Trauma typically narrows everyone's window of tolerance if you've gone through traumatic experiences, whilst healing practices tend to expand your window of tolerance. So let's look at what pushes you out of your window. Let's just go one by one, rapid shot, as to what causes you to get out of your window. Chronic stress and overwhelm, number one. Number two, lack of sleep or poor health, physical health, that is. Number three, unresolved trauma or triggering situations can push you out of your window. Major life changes and transitions can push you outside of your window. Relationship conflicts and social stress can also push you outside your window of tolerance. Now let's look at signs you're inside. So, what are the signs that you're actually outside? Let's look at what you should be watching out for to remind yourself or to get an idea that you're actually outside of your window. As I mentioned before, hyperactivation. Here, you tend to have racing thoughts, you can't sit still, you have reactive anger, you have anxiety, you start feeling weird. and that is hyperactivation. And hypoactivation is when you can't think clearly, you have emotional numbness, you have exhaustion, you feel exhausted all the time. You're feeling tired, but you're still wired somehow. And you tend to experience dissociation. So these are all some symptoms to watch out for, that shows, that is telling you, that the body is telling you that you are outside of your window of tolerance. Now, the key insight here is, when you're outside your window, this is very important to note, and I underscore this. When you're outside of your window of tolerance, logic and reasoning and willpower do not work. They do not work well. You can't think your way back into your window. You can't reason your way back into your window. You need to use body based techniques that directly affect your nervous system. You can't will yourself, you can't logic yourself back into the window, and that's an important point to remember. So, what are the practical applications then? So, how do you find and expand your window of tolerance? Let me share 3 strategies with you. Number one, learn your window patterns. That is, start noticing when you're in your optimal zone versus when you have been pushed out of it. So, for example, what does it feel like in your body? What does it feel like in your body when you're regulated? What are your early warning signs of hyperactivation or hypoactivation? Everyone's signals are different. There isn't a universal signal pattern. Yours might be, say, for example, tight shoulders, shallow breathing, or maybe sudden fatigue, whatever. But keep track of what is happening within your body. So, that is learning about your window patterns. So, that's strategy number one. Strategy number two is use co-regulation techniques. And what I mean by that is, your nervous system naturally syncs with that of others around you. Yeah, it is kind of contagious. So when you're dysregulated, spending time with someone who's calm and grounded can help bring you back into your window. The other way works as well. So if you find yourself with people who are dysregulated, then you're likely to stay outside your window of tolerance and suffer more, right? So if you spend time with someone who's calm and grounded, that will help you get you back into your window of tolerance. This is why certain people feel soothing. Certain people feel soothing to be around, and others kind of feel always activating to be around, right? So always choose your company wisely when you are under stress. And it is super important for you to remember to choose the right people to be with when you are under stress. If you're under stress and if you're out of your zone, being around people out of zone will only make things worse, while being around people who are within the zone, who are calming, will help you get back into the zone. So that's very, very important to remember. And number three, practice window expanding activities, obviously. So, what I mean by this is regular practices that kind of promote your nervous system flexibility are, or can gradually expand your capacity to handle stress in the long run. This includes breath work, gentle exercise, meditation, time in nature, creative activities, and so forth. Anything that helps you feel both alert and calm at the same time. All of these kinds of things can help you expand your window of tolerance. Meditation, doing something creative, spending time in nature, gentle exercise, breath work, all of these things are window expanding activities. So here's something to really remember. When you're outside of your window, the goal is not to force yourself back into the window through sheer willpower. That's not the point. It's to gently guide your nervous system back to safety. Gently guide your nervous system back to safety using regulation techniques. That's what it's all about. You can't force yourself back into it. You can't will yourself back into it. So for hyperactivation, again, try longer exhales, for example, than inhales. Progressive muscle relaxation, gentle movement, or grounding techniques that connect you to your physical environment. All of these things can help you if you're in hyperactivation. If you're in hypoactivation, try energizing breath work, gentle movement that gets your blood flowing, cold water on your face, for example, or activities that help you feel more present in your body. All of these things can help you when you're below the window or hypoactivation. So the goal isn't to never ever leave your window either. You might be thinking, okay, fine. So does this mean that I have to be within my window of tolerance all the time? No. Again, that's impossible and maybe not even desirable to do that. The goal is to recognize when you're outside it and to have tools to get back in it and gradually keep expanding your capacity over time. That's the goal. The goal is to realize when you're outside it, have the tools to get back in it, and then gently and gradually expand your window, expand your tolerance, expand your capacity over a period of time. And that'll take time. That is the goal. So that was about your window of tolerance. So here's your homework for the coming week. For the next week, pay attention to your nervous system and pay attention to your nervous system states. Notice when you feel calm. Notice when you feel alert and capable. That's your window. Okay? Notice when you feel either wired or reactive, or shut down or numb. That's outside your window. Okay? So notice when you're inside and notice when you're outside. Inside, you feel calm, you feel capable, you feel productive, you're in the zone. Outside, you're either wired or reactive, or you are shut down and numb. So identify when you're inside and when you're outside your window and start connecting these states to what's happening in your life and in your body. So start connecting these in and out states to what is actually happening in your life and what is happening in your body. Don't necessarily try to fix anything yet. Just become aware. Become aware of your patterns. And awareness is the first step towards regulation. That's what the homework is for the coming week. So that's a little bit about your zone, window of tolerance, how you identify patterns of when you're in it, when you're out of it, and recognizing the patterns and connecting those things, recognizing the states and connecting those states to what is actually happening in your life and in your body, so that then you can connect and make sense to understand what are usually the triggers that lead you out, and what are the ways that you are able to bring yourself back in. Knowing these two things will help you maintain your mental health over the long run. So, next week, we are going to be talking about dissociation in the digital age. Basically, when scrolling becomes an escape from reality, and why your brain might be using tech as a coping mechanism in ways that you don't even realize. So that's next week. Coming back to this week's concepts, leave some comments below. Do you recognize your hyperactivation and hypoactivation patterns? What helps you most when it comes to being regulated? So be sure to share your strategies in the comment section below, things that have actually worked for you. And as always, if you want deeper information, do visit our blog huddlepsychology.substack.com. And if you want to talk about any of these one to one, hit me up at rahul@huddlepsychology.com. So until next time, keep growing, keep huddling. Ciao for now.